Thank you, and thank you, Minister. Minister, in Carlow, we are so very fortunate to have the George Bernard Shaw Visual Centre for Arts, one of Ireland's leading contemporary art spaces in Carlow Town, which opened in 2009. With a beautiful gallery space and performance area, it really is an incredible amenity to have. Visual houses a 335-seat theatre and the largest white cube gallery space in the country, where it produces a programme of both commissioned and existing high-quality national and international contemporary art, plus a host of performances which include dance, film, comedy, literature and music. Its values set out inclusion and collaboration at its core, and the community of Carlow and Ireland have been gifted so much from the centre. In its mission statement, Visual says it is committed to identifying and removing physical, social and economic barriers to support, foster and provide opportunities for arts participation in our communities. However, a large barrier to completing this work is funding. Just recently, the company operating Visual and the George Bernard Shaw had to seek a subvention from Carlow County Council for nearly 90,000 because they needed to make up a shortfall in funding and to meet operational costs for the year. Carlow Arts Centre, owned by Carlow County Council, wrote to Carlow County Council asking for funding due to increased costs for energy and utility, lack of audience due to COVID and the reduction in VAT recuperation. It's not the first time Visual has gone to Carlow County Council looking for extra money, and I really am genuinely worried about the future of Visual. Giving money from local authority funds means something else gets cut. Already I have raised the issue of the theatre not being sufficiently accessible to community groups because of the cost of the hiring of the venue, and this is not acceptable. The arts should be for all to enjoy, and that's a huge issue for me, working with community groups and they want to hire Visual, and because of the expense of it, because of the cost of it, they can't afford it, and that's not right. Currently, all funding from Arts Council goes to gallery at the centre, but the theatre does not receive government funding. Visual was set up initially as a limited company because it could avail of capital goods scheme and the VAT recoupment in the construction phase. Now is the time, Minister. Visual, one of Ireland's leading contemporary art spaces, needs funding. Visual was an 18 million development, a joint project funded by the local authority with a grant of 3.17 million from the Department of Arts, Sports and Tourism under the Access programme. Carlow County Council and the Arts Council have provided funding in the past. However, neither will have such resources following COVID-19, and I said this will be borrowing again. It's like borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. The centre is regularly involved in funding applications, but we can support them and what they are trying to do if we just bring them in under the department and allocate them funding from central government, and I am looking for that today. Now, I have Minister, look, I have spoken to Minister Martin several times. I've spoken to any minister I can, to be honest, to try and get funding for Visual. We have the most beautiful arts theatre that you ever came across, right in the centre of Carlow Town. And we are so proud of it. But our funding is, we don't get enough funding. We need to be in the funding stream from government, and that is not happening at the moment. So, Minister, I am asking you to go back to the Minister and ask that we receive funding from the government, from central government. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Deputy. And as you're aware, I am presenting this on behalf of Minister Catherine Martin. Primary support for the arts is delivered by the Arts Council. In 2022, the Minister for Tourism, Culture, Arts, Gaeltacht, Sport and Media, Catherine Martin TD, allocated a record 130 million to the Arts Council. The Minister was pleased to retain the 130 million funding for the Arts Council in Budget 23 in recognition of the transformational impact this funding has had on the development of the sector, enabling the Arts Council to support more artists and arts organisations than ever before. The Arts Council is independent in its funding decisions under the Arts Act 2003, and neither the Minister nor officials in her department can intervene in this decision-making. Recent decades have seen the development of a nationwide infrastructure of venues and arts centres, many of which were initiated and funded by local authorities. Current funding provided to these arts centres by local authorities and the Arts Council is critical to ensure that a stable and vibrant network can be maintained. Local authorities are central to the support and development of the arts in Ireland through their own arts offices and through the resourcing and funding of arts centres. In the context outlined, it is understood that the Arts Council have made a number of funding awards to the Arts Centre referred to by the Deputy. This includes $210,000 of Arts Centre funding as well as Commissions Awards under its programme for Young People, Children and Education. I also understand that Carlow County Council was awarded $100,000 by the Arts Council under the long-standing Local Arts Partnership Funding Scheme. Under the Creative Communities Initiative in the Creative Ireland programme, the Department of Tourism, Culture, Arts, Gaeltacht, Sport and Media, together with the Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage, provide funding to each of the 31 local authorities to enable them to implement their individual culture and creativity strategies from 2018 to 22. Through Creative Communities, substantial funding has been provided to Carlow County Council for the period of 28 to 22, and it has supported an extensive programme of engagement across the arts, culture and creativity in County Carlow. These centres are also supported through capital schemes operated by the Department. Funding is available under the National Development Plan for Culture and Creativity Investment Programmes. These are closely aligned with the Creative Ireland programme and include a range of investments in regional arts and culture facilities. The Cultural Capital Scheme of 2019 to 22 is a €4.7 million capital investment scheme for arts and culture centres administered by the Department to enhance the existing stock of arts and culture centres across the country. In recent years, the Arts Centre in question was successful under a number of capital schemes. The centre was also awarded funding under the Regional Museum Exhibition Scheme. Further details can be accessed on the Department's website. Capital funding for the Outdoor Public Space Scheme is being provided to local authorities to adapt, equip or otherwise improve public spaces for cultural and events activities, taking account of public health guidance and of the needs of the local arts community. Minister Martin awarded $250,000 to Carlow County Council in 2021 to provide an outdoor public space at the Carlow Exchange in Carlow Town. I understand that this project is now completed and that it was officially opened last month and will be a centre for a range of social, cultural and educational events in Carlow. In summary, the Deputy will note that the Arts Centre, along with the local authority, is in receipt of funding from a wide range of public funding sources, including the Arts Council, which, as I have already stated, is independent in its funding decisions.
Thank you. And Minister, first of all, I do want to thank Minister Martin for the outdoor public space, which is the Exchange in Carlow Town, which is absolutely beautiful for the community. And I am aware of the Arts Council, the 210,000, and I welcome that, Minister. But again, I feel the answer really isn't a good answer in the sense that we have a building, a fabulous building. We now have a crisis with the cost of living, with heating, with the cost of ESB, with everything, the cost of electrical, all the different factors that go with that. We are now in a position that we've gone through COVID, and you would have seen, well, I know yourself, Minister, you would have been aware of this, where I think during COVID, one of the most hit sectors again was the arts and the artists through their work because they couldn't entertain. And we would have seen that in Carlow where groups that were to be in visual, they couldn't go because, you know, COVID was there, and that through no fault of anyone's. So with that brought, I think, a bit of a crisis into that sector. And while we have a beautiful building, unless we can sustain it, unless people can use it because they can afford to use it, like community groups, like artists, then we have a problem. And while I do welcome this funding, and I'm very thankful for it, Minister, this funding, we need a lot more funding going forward. And I do know that from talking to the local authorities, a local authority, Carlow County Council, that they are very much, you know, thankful for the funding that is given. But I just think on the bigger picture, the bigger scale going forward, that we need to get central government funding. Because if we don't, I don't know if Carlow County Council can keep putting funding into the visual to keep it going. And I just want to say too, Minister, we have the best of volunteers in visual, the best of people go in and spend hours of their time giving back to the people of Carlow and all around the country and to everyone that runs it. So I'm so proud of it, but all I'm just saying is it is important with the cost of living now and with the cost of everything that extra funding is there. Thank you. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Deputy. And again, this reply is on behalf of Minister Martin. As outlined previously, primary support for the arts is delivered by the Arts Council. The topic raised by the Deputy asks if funding from the Arts Council for a gallery will be extended to its in-house theatre. Under the Arts Act of 2003, the Arts Council is independent in its funding decisions, and neither the Minister nor officials in her department can intervene in this decision-making. It would therefore appear a matter for the centre concerned in consultation with the Arts Council and may involve the local authority. The Arts Centre in question has been successful in sourcing capital funding from the department under its capital schemes over a number of years. Under Budget 23, additional capital funding is proposed for the arts, which will include a new capital scheme, details of which will be announced in due course. I do want to acknowledge, Deputy, however, the absolute passion and belief that you have in the provision of this arts centre, and I acknowledge, as well as you've outlined yourself, the tremendous work of volunteers who lend so much to this particular centre, and and indeed you have very passionately spoken of the importance of the arts, and I couldn't agree with you more in that respect. And it is important that we do all that we can to seek to support it going forward. And again, I just want to reiterate, Minister Martin, in her reply, has made it very clear that there have been a number of streams of funding made available to this particular arts centre, and that is as it should be. And she specifically references the €210,000. And again, I know that you specifically welcome that as well, and indeed other streams of funding. But I will absolutely communicate to Minister Martin the passion with which you speak, the importance of this facility to all of Carlow, and to the advancement and enhancement of the arts programme and the provision of arts and the sustainability of arts going forward, and your determination to secure that going forward too. Thank you, Deputy.